friends, and happy Working Mother's Day. Happy National Working Mother's Day. That is today, March the 12th, and welcome back to Talking Sports at Work. Sorry we haven't been able to talk for a little while. I actually did an episode last week, as some of you may know. I was really happy with it. It was the first half of round one of my mock draft, and then shortly after I published it, I got a text from a friend of mine telling me that there was no audio for the first several minutes of it. So I ended up taking it down, and the plan was to redo it, and just publish it again and fix that. But by that point, it was already close to the beginning of free agency, and I thought, well, I might as well wait until some of that's over with to do it, because there might be some stuff, will be some movement and a lot to talk about. And man, was there a lot of movement and a lot to talk about after yesterday. That was one of the more exciting day ones of NFL free agency that I can remember. Had a lot of big names changing teams, a lot of quarterbacks moving, a lot of running backs getting signed, some trades happening, and excuse me, it was definitely a lot of fun to keep up with. And it's not, NFL free, it's not like the NBA, for instance, where there is this kind of stuff a lot. I mean, this was kind of more reminded you of an NBA type free agency with all these big names on the move, but there are even more because 53-man rosters, so there are a lot more players in the NFL, and so it was crazy. A lot happening, a lot to talk about today. I also already did this little intro for the first couple of minutes a few minutes ago, and had to start it over because I kept having to clear my throat, and I know that's a problem that I have, and I don't even realize I'm doing it most of the time. People tell me, excuse me, like right there, I don't even realize I'm doing it a lot of the time. I didn't realize I did it more frequently than most people until a few years ago when my now ex-wife, just mentioned something about it. I don't know, something just beeped at me. I don't know what that was. But yeah, and then I've heard some, from some fans of the show too, that I do it a lot during the show. My mom had said something about it for one. And so anyway, I stopped and I got myself a cough drop now and started over. It feels a little bit clearer. If I do it more than usual, I apologize. But we have a lot to dive into today. The NFL was insane. The Titans made some moves, still some moves to be made. A lot of big names still out there. Some guys that I've got targeted that I'm really, really hoping the Titans are looking at, and some other, and Derrick Henry is still out there as well, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. Also, really quickly, want to talk about Vols basketball because they have just been so unbelievably fun to watch this year, and the best team that Tennessee basketball has had in my lifetime, I think, the best team we've had that I can remember, a legit national championship contender. We were already such a good team last year. Most of that team comes back, and then you add this elite scorer, the best scorer in college basketball. He may not necessarily lead in like points per game or anything, but he is the most lethal, unstoppable scorer in college basketball. He can score from anywhere. He can do anything. It's unbelievable. He is what we've been missing. A guy like this, that kind of wing presence is what I've been saying we've been missing for years now. It felt like Rick Barnes was trying to get this kind of guy because he kept getting these big, like 5-star recruits there for a few years, these wing players who, had a lot of potential and just never really became that in college. And then I guess he decided, let's go a different route this time. Let's go to Division II and just get a transfer. And man, did it work. All right, hey friends, sorry about the interruption there. I had a timer go off on my phone, but anyway, the Vols are incredible. I feel like I haven't gotten enough time to talk about them this season because even though I've been watching that, like basketball, I'm off and on. Like I don't watch the NBA all that. Well, it just depends. Some years I'm watching as many games as I can. Some years I'm not. With college basketball, I hardly ever really watch much of it. I'll watch the Vols play most of the time. This year, with the Vols being so good and being a legit contender to win it all, I've been watching a lot of other teams play as well and a lot of college basketball, and it's been very, very fun. But I haven't talked about it as much as I would like because there's just been so much going on in football with the Titans coaching change and with NIL stuff and all that's going on with the Vols. And I mean, there's just been so much other stuff to talk about, it feels like. Plus now I've been concentrating a lot on the YouTube channel lately, which, by the way, is doing wonderfully. We're up to almost 400 subscribers right now, and it's continuing to grow pretty quickly. So, it's not like blowing up, but I'm very happy with it. If you haven't looked at it yet, check it out. Talking Sports at Work on YouTube. Anyway, I just want to give the Vols some love really quickly because Dalton Connect has made this team just unbelievably fun to watch and one of the best teams in college basketball. We won the SEC championship this year, the outright regular season title. The tournament is starting tomorrow. Our first game with us having the double bye will be on Friday. And then as of now, I think we're still being projected as a number 1 seed because even though we lost to Kentucky, we got really lucky because Arizona also lost. And Iowa State lost, but North Carolina beat Duke, and that jumped them ahead of us in the polls. So I don't know. Maybe they're going to give that 1 seed to North Carolina, but it seems like right now it's between us or North Carolina. And up until at no point this year has anyone talked about North Carolina as being a 1 seed. So I feel like we've still kind of got the edge in that. We've had the harder schedule. We're playing in what is currently the tougher conference. I still think we're in position to secure our first 1 seed in program history. And a lot to be excited about with Tennessee basketball right now. So I'm going to take a really quick break and we will dive into all that happened in the NFL yesterday. Alrighty, hey friends, and welcome back into Talking Sports at Work on this March the 12th, Tuesday, the second day of the legal tampering period. I don't know what I think it's supposed to be called something else now, but it's always been called the legal tampering period. No contracts can be signed until tomorrow, but everybody can go ahead and work everything out. And the Titans made some good moves, I think. Nothing too eye-popping but it was some good additions. Tony Pollard was the first signing that we made, who is definitively a good running back and was maybe not utilized as well as he could have been in Dallas in the passing game, because that's sort of really, I think, where he can be explosive. He was a wide receiver in college before moving over to running back. But it's a good signing. It was surprising to me because it almost felt a little redundant, given that, Tyjae Spears is almost the same player. We don't know for sure that Spears is going to be quite as good, but all indications are that he's going to be. And so it was surprising to get, a guy who's very, very similar, but given the way that offenses are now and the fact that we know we're going to be a pass-heavy offense, maybe it's smart to have 2 of these backs who can play all 3 downs and also be as effective in the run game as they are in the pass game. And, it wasn't like we gave him a big contract. It was like $8 million a year, I think. What was it, 3 years, 24? So it wasn't a huge investment. And I know that might seem bigger for a running back, but the salary cap jumped up this offseason quite a bit, more than people expected. So all of these contracts that we're seeing that seem huge really aren't quite as big as maybe they would have been 2 years ago. So it was a decent deal. The only thing that is surprising to me about it is just the fact that we've already got a guy who's very similar. But now maybe I trust that Brian Callahan knows what he's doing here. And maybe we're going to be running some 2-back sets with them, do some interesting things. You can split Pollard out and let him play in the slot sometimes, back McCaffrey type back. And so, it's a good move. Lloyd Cushenberry is another one that I really like. And I know a lot of people saw that contract and were like, wow, what the hell? It's a record-setting contract for a center. But again, with the salary cap going up as much as it did, it wasn't that ridiculous. And we definitely needed an upgrade. We need all the help we can get on the offensive line. So any upgrades there, I'm okay with. Cushenberry's not a star player, but he's a very good pass protector. And, if you look into his advanced stats and all the PFF stuff. He's one of the best pass protecting interior offensive linemen in the league. He's a veteran. He's a leader. He seems to be, a guy who can help Will Levis sort of point out the protections and do all that stuff. So I like that signing a lot as well. And then Chidobe Awuzie is another guy that was kind of under the radar signing, former Bengal, so we know that Callahan knows him well, and I think is a good addition. He's kind of we let Sean Murphy Bunting go and kind of got like a younger version of him. It feels like in Awuzie. So I think he'll be good on the other side there with McCreary. We still need more help in the secondary, but that was a very good addition, I think. Kenneth Murray, he's a guy that it felt like he was going to be better than he's been so far. Maybe he needs a change of scenery, but it's kind of like we just swapped out Azeez Al-Shire for him. I think Al-Shire's the better player, but he's a lot more expensive. The Texans gave Al-Shire a contract that ended up paying him. It was like $11 million a year, and so that was probably going to be tough for us to match. They also re-signed they signed Danico Autry. So the Texans took two of our star defensive players from last year, and that's going to suck to see them in the division. But he was really, Al-Shire was the one guy that I really wanted us to hold on to of our free agents, of guys who were on expiring contracts for us from last year. He was the one I really thought that we might hold on to. But then when I saw the contract the Texans gave him, I was like, okay, I understand us maybe not wanting to give him quite that much. But again, it still kind of sucks. I would have liked to keep him. I like him. My son also likes him. And of course, Derrick Henry is sort of a different story. He's kind of his own thing, I think. But we made some good additions, and we've still got a lot to do. We're missing, I think, our third round pick for this draft. So, we need to probably make that up in free agency. I don't know, but I think it was a third that we gave up to trade up a little bit in the second round to get Will Levis. And definitely it was worth it, but I think we only have 6 picks in this draft. Well, actually, no, because we traded Byard and got a couple of, what was it, 5th round picks maybe out of that. So maybe but we don't have, I think we've only got 2 picks in the first 3 rounds. So that sucks. And that's one of the reasons why I think people are talking about us as potentially trading down from 7 there. And, maybe that'll be at the best. If Joe Alt is off the board already, maybe that will be for the best. But I would like to see Joe Alt. He's my number 1 on the draft board, but that's another time. We'll talk about the draft again, maybe later this week. Now, as far as what's left for the Titans in free agency, I still have a handful of players that I would really like to see us go for. Number 1 has always been Calvin Ridley. I love him as a player. I think he would be a great addition and a tremendous help to a young quarterback and a team that needs to improve significantly in the receiver room. Calvin Ridley's a guy who I always sign him on as a free agent on Madden franchise mode when I'm playing. If he's a free agent, I always sign him. He's a guy that I feel like would have been one of the best receivers in the league had he not had to miss that time for the trouble he got into with the betting stuff. Remember, he was the guy that made the Falcons feel comfortable trading Julio Jones away. Because they knew they had a younger superstar number 1 receiver in Calvin Ridley. And, he's been inconsistent rather in Jacksonville this year, but that feels like that has as much to do with Trevor Lawrence as it does with Calvin Ridley. So I think if he goes somewhere with a really good offensive coach like Brian Callahan and a strong arm quarterback like Will Levis, I think he would be a great addition. I don't know what kind of contract he's going to command. It's probably going to be in the upper teens, but I think he'd be worth it. And it's probably going to have to be a 3 or 4 year deal in the upper teens. That would be my guess. And then also, who did I have on my list? I had Danielle Hunter. I would love to have, but I don't know that we're going to go and spend what it's going to take to get him. But we need another edge rusher, especially now with no more Autry and not having a lot of early draft picks. If we could get him, I think that would be a huge addition, but it's not like I'm expecting that. I would definitely put Ridley still ahead of him on my list. I've also got Mike Onwenu, or Onwenu, I still don't know how you say that, but the guy from the Patriots who can play all 5 positions on the offensive line and play well at them. Um, he was a very good right guard. He was a very good right tackle. He's versatile. He's not traditional size for a right tackle, but he showed all this year that he can play it very well. And given all the help that we need on the offensive line, I think he'd be someone that we should be targeting. Um, and then Chase Young is a guy who's still out there. Don't know what kind of contract. I imagine he's probably going to end up on a 1-year kind of prove it deal somewhere. And I think he'd be worth taking a chance on if that's the case. And I saw that we were also looking at DJ Reader, who's another former Bengal, that would be a good addition too, pairing him up there with Jeffrey Simmons. So anyway, still a lot to be decided there. We added a lot of really good players. We lost a couple good players, but I feel like overall we improved in free agency. And we'll see what's going to happen with Derrick Henry. Everything that I've seen so far has been kind of linking him to the Ravens, and that sucks just because of our history with the Ravens. Even though we're not in the same division anymore, we've still got that rivalry with them and still got a lot of history with them. And, it reminds me of what happened with Steve McNair there at the end of his career when we let him go and he goes to the Ravens and continues to be great for a couple of years. And now it looks like the same thing might happen with Derrick Henry. I hope it doesn't. I'll continue to root for Henry no matter where he goes, but I hope it's somewhere else. I hope it's not in our division, which I don't think he would do that. Well, I don't know. Who knows? But I hope it's not in our division, and I hope it's not the Ravens. I'd probably be okay with most other places. He could go to Buffalo and have a huge impact. He could go to Dallas. Is the other one that I keep thinking about aside from the Ravens that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I'll still love him no matter where he goes. And I'm going to take a quick break, and we will talk about some of the stuff that happened outside of Nashville in the NFL. Alrighty, howdy friends, and welcome back to Talking Sports at Work. I had to pull over there for a minute because I wanted to check my notes and make sure I didn't miss anything. So I think I covered all the free agent signings that the Titans made, as well as the important stuff I wanted to talk about with them. We had some really, really big moves in the NFL yesterday. The one that really, really surprised me, I think, more than any was Kirk Cousins. I really thought all along he was going to end up back in Minnesota. But then once I saw the contract that the Falcons gave him, I was like, oh, yeah, I get that. I mean, who would not? Who would turn that down? They gave him 4 years. I don't remember the total, but it was a lot, and I think it was $100 million guaranteed. And for a guy his age coming off an Achilles injury, yeah, come on. The Falcons have, the thinking with them all along for the last year or so, has been that they're like a quarterback away from being a true contender. I don't agree with that, honestly. I don't think that they are as good as everyone else does. I think they've got a ton of talent at the skill positions with guys like Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, but their offensive line is good. Their defense, I think, kind of overperformed last year, honestly, for at least the first half of the season. I don't think their defense is that good. But I think if you add Kirk Cousins to that team, I think it does make them the best team in that division. And that's a weak division. So I do think that it puts them in a position to make the playoffs next year, if, assuming he stays healthy. Now, and that's not a given, though, for a guy of his age coming off an Achilles. So it's a big swing for the Falcons, and I'm impressed with them for making it. He was the top guy on all the free agent boards. He was, the quarterback who was available out there. They wanted a quarterback, and so they went out and got him. And so kudos to them. I hope it works. I like the Falcons. I root for them. when they're not playing the Titans. A lot of people around here are Falcons fans, so I hope it does work out for them. But honestly, I was surprised, and now I don't know what Minnesota's going to do. I think they signed Sam Darnold, but that can't be their long-term answer. They're likely going to be thinking we need to trade up in the draft now, but that's easier said than done. They're sitting there, I think, at 12. No, they're 10 or 11, somewhere like that. So trading up high enough to get one of these top guys is going to be difficult, especially given the fact that the top three guys are probably going to be off the board in the first three picks. And the Bears, Commanders, and Patriots are not going to be trading those picks. So, uh, you know, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit there and take Bo Nix at 11? That might have been what I had them doing. Or no, I think I had in my mock draft, I think I had the Broncos taking Bo Nix at 12. But this was also with the assumption that Kirk Cousins would be back for the Vikings, and so I didn't think it was as urgent of a need. So now that's changed, though. Now, what are they going to do? And that sucks because I really like Kevin O'Connell. I think he is sort of an underrated coach in the league. He's one of the better offensive minds that we have. He's also just seems like a really likable guy. Like I like listening to him talk. I've heard a lot of his interviews. He just seems like a really likable guy. And I hate that they let him get away because it seems like he had a really good thing going with Kirk Cousins and that elite receiver room that they had out there with Justin Jefferson, who's still the best in the league, and Addison, who looks like an emerging superstar. But he's going to a ton of talent at the skill positions in Atlanta as well. And with that contract, how could he turn it down? And that's another thing. Kirk Cousins is maybe the best in history at maximizing getting the absolute most money he can. And you got to give him credit for that because, man, he got the first ever fully guaranteed contract in NFL history several years ago when he first went to Minnesota. And now he's getting this huge deal from the Falcons with triple digits in guaranteed money. So kudos to him. Kudos to the Falcons for making that big swing. We'll see how it works out. I do think it makes them the best team in that division, but I don't know that it makes them one of the NFC's elite teams. I don't think it puts them up there close to the Niners or if the Eagles perform the way that they should, or even the Cowboys. But I think it puts them closer. Speaking of the NFC East, Saquon moving from New York to Philadelphia. And this has been an interesting thing, not just because of the obvious, but because of how the reactions to it. We know Tiki Barber's had a lot to say and kind of got into a Twitter argument with Saquon. And a lot of fans, Giants fans, are losing their minds and bashing Saquon about this. That's ridiculous to me because from what I heard, the Giants didn't even make him a real offer. And they've had more than enough opportunity to lock him up and keep him there long term. They had an opportunity to do it last year. They had an opportunity, really, if they wanted to go ahead and do it the year before. And, last year he could have held out. He signed that 1-year deal, which was basically just a little bit better than the franchise tag, and stuck around for one more year when he could have gone elsewhere then. So they've had more than enough opportunity to lock him up if they wanted to. They chose not to do that. So how can you blame Saquon? Now, I get that you don't want him to go to a division rival, but if the Eagles were offering him the most money, the best contract, and an opportunity where he can go win, and your team is not offering him shit, you don't have anything to bitch about. You don't. If you want to be mad at the front office, not at Saquon. Now, and especially given that it's a running back, it's not like he was going to have as many options and suitors as, a wide receiver of his caliber or something else. And running backs, we know that position has been devalued a lot over the last decade or so. And it was a very good day for them yesterday, except for, we still don't know about Henry and some others. But we saw a lot more running back movement than I think was expected with Pollard and Eckler and Saquon, Josh Jacobs, a lot of running backs getting signed day one, which was very cool to see. But yeah, I mean, the Giants fans, you guys don't have anything. If you want to be mad at your front office. But Saquon is going somewhere where he can have a chance to win a Super Bowl and got a good contract for a lot of money. And it was something that you guys didn't offer him, or that your front office didn't offer him. So sorry, be mad at them. Speaking of running backs, Josh Jacobs going to the Packers. That's an interesting signing. And my first thought when I saw that, and I was actually texting a friend of mine about this, was what are they going to do with Jones? And I actually said, what are they going to do with the two that they still have? Because I didn't know for sure if they still had Dillon, but he's a free agent right now. But they cut Aaron Jones, so he's now out there. Actually, no, I think I just saw a few minutes ago, actually, that he's signing with the Vikings. So that's a good addition for them. But it's kind of like anything that the Vikings do right now. It's kind of like, who cares until we know what you're going to do about quarterback. But Aaron Jones is still a very good, very productive running back, 3 down, exceptional running back. And he's going to go to Minnesota where he can have an immediate impact, and we'll see what they're going to do with quarterback, though. The Bengals cut Joe Mixon, which I thought was interesting because, as far as I know, they haven't signed any of the big-name running backs. I don't know who else is on that depth chart behind Mixon, but honestly, I've never been a Joe Mixon fan anyway. The dude punched that bitch on video. I don't know how everybody just forgets about that. That I don't think he should be in the league. And I feel similar about Tyreek Hill, honestly. Everybody praises him, and he's this giant megastar. We forget this dude punched a girl, and admitted. I mean, did he do it on video too? I can't remember. I know Joe Mixon did. But I don't get that. I don't get how everybody's just okay with these. And I get guys deserve second chances and blah, blah, blah. And I am a living, walking, breathing, constant example that men can change. But I don't see how in, modern society, everybody just so quickly moves past something like that. But anyway, that's a whole other topic for another day maybe. But basically screw Joe Mixon. That's my thinking. I hope he stays unemployed. But somebody will sign him. He's a good running back, and still he's not old yet, so somebody will sign him. But yeah, I was surprised by that. I don't really know what their thinking is, or what. Maybe they're planning on going after Henry. I don't know. But we saw a ton of movement at the running back position, which was really cool to see. That it is a position that's, or a lot of these guys were in demand, and didn't have to wait around and settle for crappy contracts. Now, sure, they didn't get, probably only a couple of these guys got double digit per year deals, but like more than 10 million per. But still, it was good to see that these guys are in demand and were being signed quickly, and all the movement at that position. It was cool to see. Another big move involving the Giants was the trade for Brian Burns. I was surprised by that on the Panthers' part, because it felt like he's worth more than what they got. They got a 2 and a 5. And, I mean, that's not terrible, but this is a premium position. This is the most valuable position on that side of the ball. And he is in his prime, coming off his rookie contract, one of the better ones in the NFL at that position. They could have gotten a first-round pick for him. Now, they probably couldn't have gotten the Giants' first-round pick because it's like fifth, or I think it's there. They have the 5th overall pick this year, so they weren't going to give that for him. And so, that also makes it maybe that second-round pick is a little better because it's going to be still somewhere in the 30s. But it just feels like they could have gotten more than a 2 and a 5 for this probably 26-year-old star edge rusher. I was surprised by that. It definitely feels like the Giants won that deal, and now they're going to have that elite pass rush front that the Giants have had through at a lot of times when they've been at their best in recent history. You know, going back to Lawrence Taylor and then Strahan, and that's been when they've have been most successful. They've had these elite pass rushers and defensive fronts, and now putting Brian Burns up there with Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence, that's going to be one hell of a front, and that gives the Giants something to be excited about on that side of the ball. Um, I still don't know I've never been a believer in Daniel Jones, so the offense is a different story, but it was a very good deal made on the Giants' part, and the Panthers just continue to not look like they have any idea what they are doing when it comes to offseason moves. Um, what else? What else happened today? The Lions made a trade to get Carlton Davis from Bucks. Lots of stuff happened yesterday, but those were the big ones. Saquon moving, Cousins moving, Jacobs going to the Packers. All the running back movement, the Brian Burns trade, but we've still got a lot of guys still out there. Like I said, I mean, there are a lot of really, really good players still available, even with all the movement and all that happened yesterday. There's still going to be a lot happening today and probably over the next couple of days. So, still got a lot to talk about, or still will have a lot to talk about. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and close things out. And want to thank everyone who listens. Tell your friends about it. Share this link. Post this link. Subscribe, like it, whatever. Also, check out Talking Sports at Work on YouTube. I will be back again soon. I hope everyone has a wonderful Tuesday, and I love you. Bye.